The road to the old log cabin meeting house in Cane Ridge was literally jammed with people. Oh, they were coming by the thousands in covered wagons, on foot, and on the backs of horses. As they arrived, they began to settle into camp. As the sun set that Friday night, no one had a clue how many people had come. But when the sun came up that next morning, they began to realize that thousands, tens of thousands were there. Some put the estimates at 20 to 30,000 people that came for that camp meeting around Cane Ridge. Oh, Barton Stone realized at that moment that the old covered porch that he had created to preach from was not going to be sufficient to minister to everybody. He had 7 ministers that were prepared to minister that day. And so he dispatched them into the crowds to go minister, and they found stumps and wagons and anywhere they could set up, and they began to preach to hundreds and thousands at a time. It's a story that I write about in Trail of Fire of a mother that was there with her 2 daughters. As they're listening to the gospel being shared, the 2 daughters are struck by the power of God. They fall to the ground violently. And as they're on the ground in the complete trance, the mother is concerned. She's trying to resuscitate them and bring them back to life. But whenever they do begin to kind of come to themselves, oh, they're shrieking and groaning in absolute agony as if they're wrestling for their souls. This went on for hours until suddenly one of them came up to her feet and she said, "Dear Jesus." At that moment, the terror, the agony completely washed away, and this look of joy came across her face. She stood up to her feet and she began to preach. They said that her voice carried across the crowd as if it was supernaturally amplified. Oh, another crowd began to gather around her, and as they heard the gospel that she was now preaching, the same thing happened to them. They got touched and hit by the power of God, hundreds being swept off their feet at a time. This was taking place all across the crowd, all throughout that day, as people just began to encounter the power and the presence of the Lord. Well, the story about Cane Ridge, it circulated across the colonies. People began to organize camp meetings. And the prayer was always the same: Lord, do it again. Do it like Cane Ridge. You know, America has always been a land of revival. It's always been touched by the Trail of Fire. And I believe this. I believe that America desperately needs another move of God. God is looking for those people that are willing to tarry before Him and say once again, Lord, would you do it again? Would you do it like Cane Ridge? My friend, it's time for us to break free from the dry, dull routines of religion and become catalysts for revival.